This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Introduction, Key Problems, Thesis Statement. The American Revolution was one of the most pivotal moments in the history of the United States of America. However, when praising the military successes of our compatriots, we should remember at what cost they are achieved. Soldiers who fought in the war died in combat and gave their lives for good causes. Despite this, death overtook many soldiers not only on the battlefield but also in the camps. The first key problem of this case study is the poor camp layout and sanitation plan, which put the lives of all participants in the war at risk. This question leads to the second problem, which is the spread of various diseases and diseases. The survival rate of soldiers, non-commissioned officers, commanders, and other military personnel in the camps must be ensured in order to achieve success. Thus, by setting up a camp at the most advantageous point and creating an effective sanitary plan that would avoid disease, the United States Army commanders would be able to avoid such a large number of victims. Background. In 1775, the tension between the Americans and the British reached a peak, after which a full-scale war began. George Washington recruited the Continental Army, which occupied Boston in 1776. However, the same army lost New York and its strategically important harbor. By setting up camp at Valley Forge, Washington secured the protection of the Continental Congress, which was the governing body of the entire Revolution. A convenient strategic position of the camp was completely uninhabitable for soldiers. Accordingly, the key character is George Washington, who, at any cost, achieved the proposed goals. The army was numerous, but many soldiers died from developing diseases. These sicknesses were the result of unsanitary conditions in the camp. Prisoners lived in crowded places and ate dirty dishes, while the animals were left to decompose in the ground. Alternatives. An alternative to this situation could be to improve the living conditions of the military. If the premises were not so densely populated, Washington would be able to avoid unsanitary conditions. However, in the conditions of war, especially the War of Independence of the United States, the budget of the Army was small. Thus, most of the expenses were spent on arming the American troops, which were supposed to resist the professional soldiers of the British Crown. Accordingly, Washington and the rest of the military elite lacked the means to ensure favorable living conditions. Proposed solutions. One of the solutions to the problem of unsanitary conditions and the spread of diseases among soldiers is the development of professional training in the Army. Troops who have passed professional training are more resistant to such conditions, which allows them to achieve successful results. Such training should include training in the proper use of weapons, strategic skills, and survival skills. Specifically, survival skills would allow the Army of Washington to understand what needed to be done in order to ensure the maximum survival of soldiers in the camps. Thus, with the help of professional training, the head of the Army could avoid the spread of unsanitary conditions in the camps and various infections and diseases, ensuring the survival of the soldiers. Recommendations. Thus, specific strategies to achieve this goal, namely camp survival, should include the training of the Army. George Washington, as the undisputed leader and mastermind of the entire American Revolution, had to train his soldiers in essential skills. Leading thousands of soldiers, the general must be responsible not only for the success of the Army on the battlefield, but also outside it. It is becoming clear that the morale of the military plays a key role in achieving victory in the war. Accordingly, the high mortality rate in the camp from various diseases and sanitary conditions lowered this spirit. In this sense, it was Washington that could ensure the flourishing of the Army and its well-being. If you want to find more works like this case study on history of the NCO 1700 Valley Forge analysis, head over to ivypanda.com. It has a collection of samples with thousands of submissions covering virtually all academic subjects.